Imagine the darkest corners of the internet, a place where your deepest fears come to life. This shadowy realm known as the dark web beckons the curious and the brave with the allure of the unknown. It's a digital labyrinth, a place where secrets are hidden and identities are concealed under layers of encryption. It's a world beyond the everyday where the rules of the surface web no longer apply. The dark web's anonymity is a siren song, luring those who yearn for a taste of the forbidden, those who seek to peek behind the curtain and glimpse the hidden machinations of the internet. It whispers promises of undiscovered truths and unseen realities, feeding the innate human curiosity that drives us to explore the uncharted territories of our world. This is where our story begins, with a casual internet user named John, drawn by the mystique of the dark web. John, like many before him, was lured by the dark web's promise of absolute anonymity. John was no different than many of us. He was simply a curious cat, eager to explore the uncharted territories of the internet. The dark web, with its allure of secrecy and mystery, called out to him. It was a siren song, its melody composed of whispers about a world beyond the sanitized surface web we all know, a world of absolute anonymity. John's initial journey into the dark web was a cautious one. He began to browse through its labyrinthine network, a digital explorer charting his course through a sea of hidden information. He found himself in the midst of online forums discussing topics that would never see the light of day on the surface web. There were marketplaces selling items that ranged from the bizarre to the downright illegal. It was a world thriving in the shadows, and John was fascinated. However, as he ventured deeper, the fascination began to morph into something else. It was as if he had found a rabbit hole, and like Alice, he was tumbling down it, only this wasn't Wonderland. The deeper he went, the darker it got. The line between curiosity and obsession began to blur for John. He was drawn to the darker corners of the dark web, like a moth to a flame, unable to resist the pull. The dark web started to reveal its true nature to John. The fascination he once felt was gradually replaced by a sense of unease. He began to stumble upon sites that were not just illegal but immoral and downright disturbing. It was like peeling back the layers of an onion, each layer revealing a more sinister side. John was about to experience a side of the dark web that he didn't even know existed. John stumbled upon a link, a game that promised an experience beyond the ordinary. This wasn't your run-of-the-mill online game, no, it was something far more insidious. A game shrouded in mystery, cloaked in the shadows of the dark web. Its name? A single chilling word: Oblivion. The rules of Oblivion seemed simple enough. Navigate an eerie virtual labyrinth, solve cryptic puzzles, survive the relentless pursuit of unseen horrors. The game cautioned players with a stark warning: once you enter, there's no turning back, your reality will become our reality. These ominous words should have been a red flag, but John, ever the thrill-seeker, was intrigued. The danger, the mystery, it was intoxicating. He disregarded the warnings, convinced it was all part of the game's attempt to create an atmosphere of fear, to make the experience seem more real. As John prepared to dive headfirst into this unknown, he couldn't help but feel a sense of exhilaration. The adrenaline was pumping through his veins, his heart pounding like a drum. He clicked enter, and the game began. The screen flickered, and for a moment he thought he saw something. A shadow, a figure. But then it was gone. The game was more than he had anticipated. The labyrinth was vast, the puzzles perplexing, the unseen horrors chillingly real. And the more he played, the more engrossed he became. Hours melted into minutes, days into hours. The outside world began to fade away, replaced by the cold, haunting world of Oblivion. Despite the mounting dread, despite the growing unease, John pressed on. He was in too deep. The game was all-consuming, a relentless beast that refused to let go, and yet, he couldn't stop. He had to see it through, had to reach the end. Little did he know the game was more real than he could ever imagine. As John delved deeper into the game, things began to take a sinister turn. The game, once a curiosity, now became a chilling labyrinth of grotesque tasks. Each new level was a further descent into the macabre, each task more horrifying than the last. The game seemed to revel in its own darkness, its challenges growing more gruesome and perverse. John found himself in a grim dance with fear, his every move watched by unseen spectators. Their comments, cold and impersonal, popped up on his screen, a constant reminder of his invisible audience. "Good job, John," they'd write, or "You're getting closer," their words echoing in his mind, increasing his paranoia. They knew him. They were watching him. But who were they? Where were they? The questions swirled in his mind, feeding his fear, his isolation. He could feel the watchers' eyes on him, their gazes as tangible as a cold breeze against his skin. They were everywhere and nowhere, hidden behind the veil of the internet. Their identities were as elusive as shadows, their motives as inscrutable as the game itself. John began to feel as though he was trapped in a spider's web, the unseen horror closing in around him. With each passing day, the game consumed more of John's life, its horrifying tasks becoming his reality. His world began to blur, the lines between the game and reality becoming increasingly hazy. He was losing himself in the game, his identity dissolving into the digital ether. The game was no longer just a game, it was his life, his world, his prison. The watcher's comments became his only connection to the outside world, their words a chilling reminder of his situation. He was a puppet, his strings pulled by the unseen horror lurking in the shadows of the game. The paranoia, the fear, the isolation. It was all part of the game, and John was the main player. John was no longer playing the game was playing him. The game reached its final terrifying task, a real-life meeting. The words on the screen were as cold and impersonal as the dark web itself. John's heart pounded like a drum against his ribs, the rhythm syncopating with the fear coursing through his veins. A sense of dread filled his chest, making it hard to breathe, hard to think. This was no longer a game, this was real. He had dabbled in the unknown, seeking thrills in the shadowy corners of the internet, but this was beyond anything he had imagined. The allure of the dark web had drawn him in, its promise of anonymity and forbidden knowledge too tempting to resist. But now he was a pawn in a sick, twisted game, and he wanted out. His fingers flew across the keyboard, typing out a desperate plea to quit the game, but the response was swift and chilling. "There's no way out, John. You're in this till the end." The message echoed in his mind, a grim reminder of his predicament. He was trapped in the digital labyrinth of the dark web, his every move being watched, monitored, controlled. Panic surged through him, a tidal wave of fear that threatened to drown him. He had thought he was safe behind his computer screen, untouchable in his anonymity, but he was wrong. The game had crossed the line, seeping into his real life like a malevolent specter. The realization hit him like a punch to the gut. He was not just playing a game, he was the game. His mind raced, thoughts tumbling over each other in a chaotic whirl. He had to escape, had to find a way out. But how? He was ensnared in the web of the game, his every move anticipated, every escape route blocked. The game was always one step ahead, a relentless predator hunting its prey. His eyes darted around the room, the familiar surroundings taking on a sinister hue. Shadows seemed to dance and flicker, morphing into menacing figures. His heart hammered in his chest, each beat a reminder of the ticking clock. Time was running out. The real-life meeting was looming, a specter of unknown horror. He had been drawn into the game by his curiosity, his thirst for the unknown. But now, he was a puppet on a string, dancing to the tune of an unseen puppeteer. The game was no longer a source of thrill. It was a trap, a prison of his own making. He was caught in a web of deceit and danger, a pawn in a game where the stakes were all too real. His world was spinning, the walls closing in. The room was a prison, the screen a mocking reminder of his predicament. He was trapped in a nightmare, a chilling game of cat and mouse where he was the mouse and the cat was always watching, always waiting, always ready to pounce. John was trapped in a nightmare of his own making. John, trapped in this dark reality, had to make a choice. A choice that would either lead to his salvation or plunge him further into the abyss. In this terrifying game of cat and mouse, John's only hope was to escape this sinister realm he'd naively wandered into. He had to act swiftly. The chilling pursuit was on. The dark web's malevolent agents were relentless. They were unseen predators in a digital jungle, and John, their unsuspecting prey. His heart pounded like a drum, each beat echoing the seconds ticking away on his freedom, maybe even his life. John's desperate escape attempt was a race against time. His fingers flew across the keyboard, typing in code after code, trying to disconnect from this nightmare. The screen flickered, his breath hitched. For a moment it seemed as though he might be free, but the chase was far from over. Every click, every keystroke was a gamble. The dark web was a labyrinth, and one wrong turn could lead to a dead end where his pursuers lay in wait. But John was not ready to surrender. He was not ready to become another lost soul in this digital underworld. The chase seemed to stretch on for an eternity. Sweat trickled down his forehead, his heart threatening to burst from his chest. But finally, after what felt like hours, he saw it. The exit. A beacon of hope in this world of darkness. The final keystroke was entered. The final click made, and then silence. John had escaped. He had narrowly avoided becoming a casualty of the dark web. But the aftermath of this harrowing experience was far from a triumphant victory. It was a haunting reminder of the terrifying ordeal he had just survived. The psychological scars ran deep. The once familiar glow of his computer screen now held a sinister edge. The internet, once a source of entertainment and connection, had become a symbol of fear. The dark web's shadow loomed over him, a constant reminder of the horrors that lurked beneath the surface of our digital world. John became a recluse, his trust in the virtual world shattered. He flinched at the sound of a keyboard, shuddered at the sight of a computer screen. His life was irrevocably changed. The dark web had left its mark, and it was a mark that could never be erased. The aftermath of John's encounter with the dark web was a chilling testament to its horrifying realities. It was a stark reminder that there are corners of the internet that are best left unexplored. That curiosity can lead us down paths we are not prepared to tread. John escaped, but the horror of the dark web would forever haunt him. The echoes of his chilling chase would resonate in his mind, a constant reminder of the dangers that lurk in the shadows of our digital world. The dark web had claimed another victim, not in life but in spirit. It was a horror that would never truly leave him. John's story serves as a chilling reminder of the dangers lurking in the dark web. It's a realm of the internet that's often shrouded in mystery and intrigue, a place where curiosity can lead you down a rabbit hole from which there may be no escape. This isn't a tale spun from the mind of a horror writer, but a stark reality of the world we live in today. The dark web, while it may hold an allure for those seeking the thrill of the unknown, is a treacherous landscape populated by unseen dangers. It's a place where the unthinkable can and does happen. John's encounter with the sinister game, a seemingly harmless curiosity, spiraled into a real-life nightmare. This wasn't a virtual terror confined to the screen, but a palpable horror that bled into his everyday life, casting a shadow over everything he knew. But it's not just about the singular horrors that John experienced. The dark web is a breeding ground for all forms of nefarious activities, from illegal trade to cybercrime. It's a place where your personal information could be bought and sold, where your identity could be stolen, and your life, like John's, could be turned upside down in the blink of an eye. The importance of internet safety cannot be overstated. It's crucial to understand that the internet isn't always a safe space, and the dark web, even more so. It's essential to be vigilant, to protect your personal information, and to tread carefully in the darker corners of the web. It's easy to be enticed by the allure of the unknown, to be drawn in by the thrill of exploration, but remember, it's a dangerous world out there, and the dark web is its most treacherous terrain. So remember, the next time curiosity tempts you to explore the unknown, not all that glitters is gold.